Want to know what content goes into a successful dissertation defense? You're going to find out right now. Hey everybody, I'm Leigh Hall from teachingacademia.com, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia and make your best impact. So today we're talking about how to create a successful dissertation defense. And in this video, I'm going to be focusing on the content that you want to have inside your defense that you want to be discussing. And then in the next video, we're going to be talking about presentation and design. And I'm going to make some recommendations for you about that in the next video. So first of all, yay, congratulations. You've got your defense on the calendar. It's going to happen. But you look at what you wrote and it can be anywhere 200 to 300 pages long. How are you supposed to condense that down to a manageable amount of time, right? So that you can communicate what you need to communicate to your committee. All right, so first of all, talk to your advisor. Your advisor will give you the framework for what you can expect in your dissertation defense. I've also got some videos on it that you can watch as well, but definitely go over the framework and outline with your advisor in terms of what you're required to do, what the committee's gonna do, etc., and the overall timeline. So typically, a dissertation defense is going to be hour and a half, could be 2 hours. It's definitely not gonna be less than an hour. Your advisor will tell you how long you have to speak. And normally that's going to range, okay? It can range between 15 to 30 minutes. I would say 20 minutes is probably about average. Now, you might say, oh, 20 minutes, what does that remind me of? It reminds me of a conference presentation. So essentially, your dissertation defense is going to be a research conference presentation, all right? Now, if you're still thinking, but I wrote 200 pages, 300 pages, 400 pages, I wrote an entire book, it's still going to be a research conference presentation, okay? Now, before I tell you what needs to go into this, I do want to give you a heads up. You might feel, I know I did, you might feel a little silly talking about the things I'm going to tell you to talk about with your committee, because your committee has been with you since day one, right? They helped you with the proposal. You defended that proposal. They've read your dissertation. They've said, yes, move on to the defense. They should already have a pretty good idea about what anything you would say, right? And while yes, you will have some audience members there, most likely, your defense is not really for your audience, right? Your defense, right, your non-committee members. Your defense is really for your committee members, right? Because in the end, they're the ones that sign off on you. They're the ones that you really have to care about the most when you're designing this presentation, all right? So you might feel a little silly, like, hey, I'm just telling you stuff you already read about. I'm telling you stuff you already know. Yes, you are, but we're going to do it anyways because that's a defense, okay? So knowing all of that, being comfortable with all that, get your framework down, get your timeline down, and then here is the content that you need to include. First of all, the problem. Remind your committee. This is why this study was important, all right? Background information, whatever they need to know, right, to fill in some gaps, and make sure that you define those 1 or 2 key constructs that are critical to your defense. So for example, when I did my defense, my key construct was struggling readers. And so you could think any number of things with that term. And I had to tell my committee, this is what I mean by that term. This is how I defined it. And this is the definition that I landed on, okay? So again, if there's an agreed upon definition, use that. If there's not, take that up, have a little discussion, not a discussion, but share, right? Here are some, popular but differing definitions, and here's where I landed, okay? Go over those key constructs. Your theoretical framework, what lenses did you use to view your data, if that's appropriate? Your research questions, whatever those are, make sure those are front and center. You get to those, make sure you remind everybody what those are. Your methodology, what you found, and then your discussion, conclusion, sort of a next steps thing. And I would talk to my advisor to see if it's appropriate. Really, on that last slide, I doubt anybody would care, but I would still ask. If it's appropriate to sort of say, hey, given this study, given what I have found, and now I'm defending and I'm moving, into a position where I'm going to be doing more research. Here's where I see myself going with this line of research. Here are some possibilities of things I might do next. It's a very common question. Even if you don't put that in your presentation, think it through, because it's a very common question for a committee member to ask you. Okay, what are you going to do next? How are you going to launch this line of research? You're not married to any answers you give, okay? But think it through so that you have some intelligent ones, right, to provide should that question come up, or just put it directly on that last slide, all right? So I hope this is helpful. Below, leave me questions, comments that you have about creating a successful dissertation defense.